Are there aspects to your day that you feel as if you're just, checking the box? Do you ever strive to reach out of your comfort zone, become uncomfortable, and level up? Privileged to be your host, this is Jason Wabick. Now, let's uncheck the box. A great day to everybody out there. Once again, my name is Jason Wabick, host of the Uncheck the Box podcast, where today we continue our journey again in being the best versions of ourselves as we can possibly be. And just a reminder, it is a destination we never do reach. But that's the magical part about this journey, isn't it? And today we're talking about pressure. The title, Pressure is a Privilege. And it's a term that I think I can, when I was doing some research on this and why so many people use this sentence, it looks like it's tracked back to a book that was written by Billie Jean King, who was a tennis player back in the day. I don't know the years, don't know much about the author and the player, but you know what, I will tell you, I am going to read the book now. Because, again, this is a term or a sentence, a phrase, if you will, that's used quite a bit out there, and it seems like she was the creator of it. And so it's pretty intriguing when you look at this and say, well, pressure is a privilege. Here's a situation where we all would say, well, pressure's not such a good thing, right? But why is it a privilege? Well, we're going to take a deeper dive at that. Before I do that, I wanted to kind of recap episode 29 from last year that was titled Embracing the Panic, because I feel like there's a lot of parallels. And I felt like it was a really good reminder of that episode, which will lead us into this privileged, essentially, situation of being feeling the pressure. And so there was this article that I recapped from WebMD back in that episode that talked about our body's fight or flight response. And that's what's behind this intense physical, the symptoms that we feel. And normally when we encounter a threat, whether it's a grizzly bear, a swerving car, or just quite frankly, a situation at work where we were caught off guard and we start to feel that pressure build up, then our nervous system starts to spring into action. The hormone adrenaline floods into our bloodstreams, putting our body into high alert. Our heartbeat quickens and it sends more blood to the muscles. Our breathing becomes faster and more shallow, and it allows our bodies to take in more oxygen, and thus our blood sugar spikes. Our senses then at this point get pretty acute and get much sharper. Again, everybody, this is going back to our primal ancestors, right? Or predecessors, should I say, that, it was a matter of life or death back then. And so our bodies tend to react that way just from our most primal state. So back then we talked about embracing the panic. We talked about how innovation was key, right? Realizing that, you know what, if we get knocked off our pedestal, that's not necessarily such a bad thing. And what got us here to this day may not get us there down the road. Our destination, our new destination, where we want to go, may take a different path than the path that got us to where we're at right now. Trying old things in a new way just might be the thing that we're looking at doing. Essentially putting ourselves into possible pressure situations. Another thing, we have to embrace change, right? Change is inevitable, just like the seasons. Winter, spring, summer, and fall, we adapt each and every single time we see a change. Don't let it paralyze us. Dealing with change and what we do with it will ultimately play a key role into our success and our results. Another one, we say it all the time, everybody. I don't think I can say it enough, is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Okay? When discomfort sets in, don't run away from it. Embrace it. Lean into it. We're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive on that today. It is a human emotion, just like anything else. Happiness, sadness, anger. So just embrace it. Get curious, everybody, with the unknown. Okay? And treat yourself to this learning experience. I had to share something with you, and something I've been really pondering and something I've kind of been feeling. I caught myself this week in a good way. I caught myself saying, you know what? I've noticed lately that I'm constantly pushing myself into the uncomfortable situations, almost like asking myself, okay, Jason, where's your next challenge? Where is it? When I almost now find myself feeling comfortable with something, that I've mastered something to a degree of where it's automatic, now I'm in an autopilot mode where I'm trying to find out, okay, where can you push yourself next? Where is your next level? And you know what's interesting to me? What was not automatic back in the day is now automatic. So I find myself now outside of my comfort zone, and it's happening automatically. Pretty cool, right? Didn't quite know that I could get to that type of experience, but it's one of those things where after you've embraced the uncomfortable time and time again, you almost thrive in it. You embrace the panic and thrive in the panic, right? And as we get into this pressure word, right, you almost welcome those times. So tolerate failure, everybody. Tolerating failure is going to be how we can grow. And I think we used that analogy back then in episode 29 about floundering. Flounder with the pressure and intention. Instead of resisting it, check out what happens when you allow life's inevitable moments of helplessness to be part of the picture. Learn and grow for the benefit of all. And then lastly, you just got to plan for success. You got to just almost see it, but then you got to plan it. You know, it's just a dream unless you take a plan and actually put actions and goals in place. Otherwise, you hope that your dreams do happen. So if you put a plan in place, an actionable plan, and then you do it, you will find that you will achieve that level of success, and it's not just a pipe dream. You actually make it and you manifest it as a reality. And that's by adding routine into your day. And it's not going to happen on its own, my friends. You have to be intentional with this. Failing to plan is planning to fail, and hope is not a strategy. So that's just kind of a real quick recap of that episode on panic. And so now we're going to tie it into this pressure and how it's a privilege. There's this quote by Peyton Manning. It says, pressure is something you feel when you don't know what you are doing. And to some degree, I kind of see where he was going with that. You know, pressure is something that you feel when you don't know what you're doing. But also pressure could almost or you could feel pressure or what's perceived to be pressure when something is that you know what you're doing. But I think sometimes it gets confused because conversely, nerves are maybe a little bit more of what you feel when you're doing something that you know what you're doing, right? So, for example, if you have to take the stage and speak in front of people, you know what you're going to say. You've done it before. You feel a little bit of nerves, right? Now, maybe you think it's pressure, right? But maybe it's just more of that kind of nervous feeling. Well, pressure is that moment in which you're caught off guard and you don't know what you're doing, right? Or you didn't see something coming and you're like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? It's like almost that time which you do take the stage and the technology fails on you, right? You didn't see it coming. You don't know what to do. Now that in turn could be a pressure situation. So let's break down the definitions of pressure. So if you look it up in the dictionary, it says here, pressure, the burden or mental distress, the constraint of the circumstance. Kind of like those analogies I just gave you, right? The burden and the mental distress, and you are now a victim of that circumstance. You're in the middle of it, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? Pressure also means you're doing something big. Okay, so this is a big opportunity for you. You're exactly where you need to be if you are feeling a little bit of that pressure. Pressure, again, is not to be avoided, everybody. Again, it's uncomfortable. So this is my point. This is where we tie it together. Please do not avoid pressure. Pressure is to be pursued. So run right into it, right? Run into the unknown, embrace it, lean into it, and that's exactly where you need to be. Something cannot move unless you give it pressure. I love that analogy. Pressure is what gives movement and action to your goals and your dreams. Take a look at diamonds, for example, okay? Diamonds are not formed from coal unless there's a ridiculous amount of pressure. To be exact, it's 725,000 pounds per square inch to turn a piece of coal into a diamond. So everybody, pressure is your fuel. When you think about pressure, you start to feel pressure, okay? Pressure is definitely in the mind. So that's where we can certainly play a big role. Our mind can play a big role in this. So is this good pressure? Is it bad pressure? Recognize which one and then move forward. Speaking of mental, right, managing self-talk is going to be a very important key to managing pressure because our heart rate does increase, but we have to stay confident and we have to tell ourselves the exact things that we need to persevere through this feeling, through this moment. And, everybody, we got to view this as a privilege. Welcome this as a challenge, kind of like I shared with you. Going into the unknown and welcoming it as a challenge is a privilege. Sometimes you may want to turn up the heat a little bit on the situation, but listen, everybody, be very careful. Okay? You don't want too much. You don't want too much. So if you're not feeling like there's enough pressure, you can turn the heat up a little bit. Or in some cases, the situation will just be plenty hot enough. But again, like I said before, manage that temperature. Sometimes too hot and you're running too hot, then all of a sudden you will bust, right? So just keep that right level of pressure because that's why it's a privilege, because it's going to fuel you. And with that right amount of pressure, you will exactly get what it is you set your mind out to achieve. And lastly, everybody, you have to trust this. You got this. And again, failure is inevitable. You pick yourself back up and you try it again and you keep going. So trust yourself. Trust yourself in the pressure. Trust yourself with dealing with the pressure. And then you will ultimately be a better, maybe not the best, but a better version of yourself. Everybody, thank you again so much for joining me today. Appreciate you. I appreciate this platform. And I just, again, everybody, I hope you all see as much privilege in the pressure as I do. I hope you all take that step into the darkness. It might be dark, it might be scary, but it's well worth it. I promise you, everybody, it's well worth it. Once you're in there and then you see the clearing through the other side and you come through and you're like, man, I can't believe I waited so long. I can't believe I agonized over this. You got through it. You can do it, everybody. I promise you. Take that leap of faith. Embrace the panic. Pressure is a privilege, and you go get it. Appreciate you, everybody. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.